All right, we're live. Okay, we're excited. We have Elena on from the Centr with me, and today we're going to be talking about HR and really related to the employee experience and how all that works. So, Elena, before we kind of dig into that and why HR it can be done virtually and why it actually I love it virtually is people are starting to figure out by now. I love virtual and I anytime there's a gap or people think like virtual can't be done, this can't be done virtually, I think we have figured out how to solve that. So, Elena, you want to give a little background on yourself before we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Formerly, I've been in corporate healthcare, so I worked for a healthcare hospital for 12 years. And in my job related, I did all the new hire orientations, but then married my husband, moved out of state, so I left my job and I started with the Centr originally as a virtual assistant, and then kind of moved into this role when it became a need. So now I'm here.
Good, yeah. So the Centr, for those that don't know, is the company that I founded, and we do tons of different services for other companies. Kind of that we have this saying, like what we do for us, we do for you. So we kind of figure out how to do it well in house. So whether it's anything from answering phones to HR, accounting, technology, marketing, all kinds of things we do for businesses. And so it's pretty cool to be able to flesh it out internally, especially we have a really strong culture. So as different ideas come up, we're like, oh, that's so cool, let's try that. And we love it. And we're like, oh, let's give our clients that. And so it allows us to kind of be the testing ground and really be innovative and kind of forward thinking in certain areas. So and so Elena, she didn't say this, but she's kind of a military spouse, and I've really become just realized I didn't quite realize the effect that this type of job has on a military spouse. And so, do you want me to talk a little bit about that for a minute, Elena?
Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming more and more common. I've found, even for myself, coming out of a career and still wanting to keep my career, that a lot of military spouses are out there who want to work and keep their skills current, and just based off of what our husbands do, it becomes, we become transient and people are kind of nervous to keep us. And so it can be a little bit discouraging most of the time when you want to work. So we hope and pray for virtual opportunities that allow us to keep our jobs and continue to move around with our spouses. And so I think literally stumbling upon the virtual assistant position was like absolutely amazing. And yeah, a year later, I mean, I think it's sometimes you have to be creative, and in that sense, like I was like, well, it's an assistant of some sort, so I'll take it, and it really opens more opportunities than one would think. And I think that, there's so many spouses out there that are highly educated and highly skilled, so it can still be used just in a different way. So
yeah, that's great. And for us, we're really wanting to expand that and even go, and we know there's a lot of military spouses overseas. And for us, we're looking at being able to have work done in different time zones. And so it's just a great way to kind of get used to different time zones. And we just got used to East Coast, West Coast, Pacific time. And so now we're going to add another challenge and work with other countries. So all right, so before we dig in, so the topic today for those that are just joining is, can you truly do everything remotely in your company, even something like human resources? And so, but before I dig in, I just have to admit something. So when I first saw the title of human resources, I was like, oh, that doesn't sound very fun. And the reason why was because my background is actually in accounting and finance. And so I've been in that compliance space for a while. But I am like a true visionary. And so I've done accounting, because the part I like about accounting is like the problem solving and troubleshooting. And so like I got out of it, and now I'm like this true visionary. And so I don't do a lot in the HR and the accounting space as much. I have an amazing team that loves it and does it. And so I was like, oh, I got to talk about this. And it's almost like bringing back a little bit of trauma. But then I met with Elena, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is really exciting, because I just took for granted some of the things that we have actually come up with and the things that we do in the HR world that I think is very valuable. And so with that being said, and with me admitting my my flaws. Let's just dig in. So, Elena, like, what do you think is important to think about when you hear the word human resources? Like, what do you think about? What are some of the first things that come to your mind?
For me personally, for my aspect, I try to put the human back in human resources, because at the end of we're still trying to keep a culture about our company that is above above the rest of them, and we still want to do that with who we bring in and their why they come in, and can they function in this culture, because it's very important that we all work together, and that's what keeps our company humming along, because we bring in the right people. But we also try to set them up for success at the same time. And those are the elements that I look for, because it makes us what's best, honestly. Yeah.
That's great. So human resources, like we have these different models for the different aspects of our company and also the services that we do for companies. And one of the areas is the employee experience. That's what we call it. And under the employee experience, we have employee recognition, as well as employee like training, and then onboarding and HR. And so really when we look at HR, it's just one aspect of the whole employee experience. So we always try to take it one more level up and think, okay, what is the experience we want to give our employees, and what is our culture? And so those are all just really important things. So let's dig in, because I was really excited about some of the tactical things that we do, and this might set the stage for. Usually I do it the opposite, where I talk more conceptually and then get into more tactical. But I was just really excited about some of the things that we do and how we've been able to problem solve some of the virtual problems. So one is around the I-9 getting notarized. So first start with our rat race we ran into being a virtual company, and just trying to do those things that are, you take for granted when you're in a physical office and somebody sits down to do onboarding paperwork. So first set the stage for what we were doing and the problems, and then how we solve that problem.
Yeah, originally, it's for a virtual company, obviously you have to, and we are beyond just contracts. So I think I should also make mention of that. So we do verify with the I-9s. And when I first came on about a year ago, it was, set of instructions. Okay, we need it to be notarized because we're virtual, but we don't want them to stamp it. We just want them to sign it, because obviously we're virtual and we can't receive that stamp. And so it became kind of a wild goose chase of, okay, who's going to do that? And even when I first started doing HR, all of our new hires, I was like, well, I'm going to try looking in the area and see if maybe there's some place you can go to. And after a while, the idea came, like, maybe there's a virtual notary that we can do and utilize. And
because the banks were sending them away, the EPS were sending them away. Nobody wanted to actually notarize the I-9.
Yeah. And so we finally figured out that we could actually do it virtually. And now we have our own in-house notary, so we can notarize all of them, which has taken a huge load off of us, because otherwise it was just a mess beforehand. But yeah, it's
cool. I actually had to have something notarized the other day, and I was in quarantine, and I was like, I need a notary. I was like, oh wait, we have an in-house notary. And so I had like an hour to get something notarized, where before I would have had to like rush to the bank and get it done. And so when you're in quarantine, like even I was like, oh, I can go and use somebody on my team. So I literally pinged her, got on a call, and I literally show her like where's my camera, and show her the paper that I'm doing, and see, HR is fun. I told you I was all thinking this wouldn't be fun, but then I got really excited when we started talking about some of these things. So
yeah,
cool. No, I love that. So we solve the problem. So if you're like, well, we need things notarized, well, you can actually do virtual notaries. So for those that didn't know, we obviously didn't, and we figured that out. It was a huge lifesaver for us.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's dig into the onboarding process and kind of being virtual. Like how are we handling that, and how are we trying to constantly improve that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Originally, it was kind of a little choppy. I wouldn't say there was necessarily a process in place, because, we didn't quite have the model that we do now, which, it has made it much more simple. and that is our goal, to keep things simple. So we did implement a new process of onboarding to allow for, not only the employee from start to finish, like here's all your paperwork and here's who you meet with. And we've developed a welcome letter. So we send them a welcome email before they even start. And so they know what to expect on their first day. And hey, you're going to meet with Whitney, or you're going to meet with Rebecca. And we let them know in advance so they don't come in on their first day and wonder, what am I doing? And we set them up with all of their paperwork ahead of time. And then this is, who you need to meet with, and here's your strategist, and here's your shadow partner. And so they're prepared, and we can set them up for success, because a lot of times part of the element of people who work in a virtual setting, it can be very isolating. And a lot of times, there was a stat that I saw somewhere where it said that the average person stays in a virtual setting for less than 2 years, because it's just so alone, and they don't know what they're doing, they don't know who they report to, and there's a lot of confusion. And we're able to come up with something and implement something that is like, here, it's all organized, here's what you need to do, here's what you have to, here's all your tools, and they can feel welcomed, and they can feel ready. And so it's been great.
Yeah, and we really, because of the culture we've created, the turnover has drastically reduced. And then because of the way we structure a company, we're so much about our why and our vision and our purpose and our core values, that it's instilled in everything that we do. So when people come into the company with their own personal why and why they want to work here and what's important to them, if they don't align with ours, it's a great way to see that we're not a good fit. So people will quickly start to realize if they're a good fit or not. And so it allows for those that know that they're at home to stay, and it really takes away from some of that turnover. But Ashley said something in the chat, which I absolutely love. So she said, welcome ladder. So what you were talking about with the onboarding process, it's really a welcome ladder. And for those that Ashley's in our marketing team, which is, if you're familiar with the value ladder in marketing, it's really, the process that your customers go through to keep adding more value to them. And so I love that. I wanted to coin that phrase. So cool. There was something else I wanted to talk about with the onboarding. I was looking at my notes. So I was in a meeting, and I love when there's like new ideas. And like I had mentioned with culture, like companies need to have a strong vision and core values and know what their origin story is, and so that their employees can really get behind that. And I'm obviously a very passionate person, and so I think my employees, they can really get behind my vision, which I am very grateful for. But Whitney, who's over our Employee Experience channel, she goes, what do you think about a culture book? So instead of just an employee manual, like in addition to that, creating a culture book, and she might be wanting to make this a surprise for the team, but so I'm letting it out right now. But and so I love that, because it's a great way to early on kind of set the stage for what we're about. We just had a guy start, and he's like, what's the culture like? And, he had a feel of what it is because of the couple people, but it's a great way to kind of indoctrinate him quicker. So do you have any thoughts, Elena, on the culture book and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, it's a huge project. The one that we currently have right now, and that's something that we've talked about within the HR setting itself, is like, how do we create something that's just beyond, these are our policies and procedures and very formal, because that's not who we are as a company. So it's like, why are we showing something that's not even who we are? And a lot of it also kind of more pertains to a physical job, or like that doesn't even include us. And that's something that we can create something that's new and that can be for a virtual setting. And that often includes having something that's more culture based. Obviously we're going to have our policies and procedures and all the proper stuff. But overall, it's beyond just that. It's about the person and creating something that can, be very welcoming. But here, we do have a few rules, but overall, this is a family that you're joining, and this is what we like to do, and this is how we like to roll. And we want you to kind of soak in our values and be a part of it, and just go gung ho. And it is a long project though. It's something that I've been working on, and trying to weed out the stuff that doesn't pertain, and then add in the stuff that is great. It's going to be a task, but we're going to complete it, and I'm excited about it.
I think you're referencing too, like the current employee handbook we have, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, and I think part of the problem is like you have a technical writer write it, but then that makes it very technical and doesn't like instill the culture. So it's adding that element in. And so what I was referencing, Elena, was actually like a separate like culture book too.
Oh, yeah.
Like think of it more like a yearbook in a sense, like a beefed up yearbook. And then I think for onboarding, do we send swag out? I might be saying something we
Yeah,
don't.
we do. Yeah.
I think we do, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, we do.
So that's a great way to add like that physical element. I always love having that physical touch related to a virtual company. So that's another way to infuse just the human aspect into HR.
It makes them feel welcome too to come on board, like to actually receive something that is like a physical item from the company that you're going to work for that is completely virtual. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about I-9s and virtual notaries and how awesome that is. We talked about the onboarding process. We talked about military spouses and just how it's such an opportunity that is to help out the veterans in that community and those that have to leave corporate jobs and be uprooted every 2 to 5 years or however long it is. And then let's talk a little more about like the physical corporate world versus a virtual world. Elena, you've come from a corporate world. Tara, who was closely involved in HR, who had a tragic incident happen, so she's taking a leave right now, but she also came from the same thing, a corporate world, but they had to move a lot as well because her husband worked for a corporation that did work for the military, so they had to move as well. So just talk a little bit more about what you see as the differences in HR and maybe how it can be better virtually, how it can be done better.
Yeah, just kind of based off of my experience, and it's very much separated. Like you have to go to a different person for something different, and it can be kind of a wild goose chase to get anything done. For the company I worked for, I was kind of the middleman, or rather an extension to a bigger department of HR that we had thousands of employees, and I tracked them all, but they were in a house somewhere else, and so I was kind of the go-between, and there was always a lot of an element of frustration, I would say, because they were like, nobody knew what to expect of them, and they didn't know where they were supposed to go. And so it's what's different for us in a virtual setting. Often it's kind of the same thing, where especially with companies who don't really have somebody to kind of like bring on the people and pre-screen them, interview them, and that kind of thing. So it kind of takes that off of their plate versus having them have to deal with it and all of that. We do that too. We help a couple of our own clients within the center as well to just help them, relieve that stress of, oh, now I have to do this and I'm not sure how to do this for this person. And we take the checklist that we have for onboarding and say, well, here you go. Like, here's what we do. You want to do the same? And I think that's what makes it different, because in the corporate setting, like it's very physical, and you lose a lot of the human experience and a lot of the human element in it. And while it's virtual, it can be purposeful, and you can do it with intention, and make the, as I said, like put the human back in, human resources, where it's all about that person coming on, and it's more successful, I feel.
It's not about like go to this office and do this thing and then go here and do this thing. We can virtually can create more of a flow.
Yeah,
people are more focused. It's all just a Zoom meeting. It's not which office are you in, and so it's less about where you have to go and what you have to do, and more about we can kind of control that flow a little more. So for those that are interested, like we had mentioned, we do in-house. We love to become the best at what we do, and then we also replicate that and do that for our clients. And so for those, as people are starting to think about, do I want to scale up and have employees again, or do I want to outsource it and have somebody else do it? Really, you can do it one of two ways. You can have your own employees, but outsource those non-core functions and supporting functions, or you can not even hire the employees and most likely outsource probably 90% of your business through us. Obviously, we're not going to go and do the plumbing work if you're a plumbing company and those kind of things, but the 80% that makes every business the same, like that's the things that we do. And so let's just, do you want to mention some things, Elena, that for those that are looking to maybe say, I don't even want to touch HR, what are the different, I know we have some clients that are just fully embracing us, like some are startups that are even like out of the gate saying, I want you to do recruiting, and like, so list some of the things that are different options of services that people could outsource.
Definitely, like we can do the job postings, we can do the screenings, We can be the ones to receive all the applications and go through them. We can do the pre-screens, pre-interviews, and then kind of weed out the ones that really aren't a possibility, and have that weeds out a lot of work, because knowing for the jobs we posted for and how many applications we receive, that it can be a task. And for business owners that just have no time for that, we're that extension for them. Even as far as allowing onboarding, if they need us to help them with onboarding, we do a few other tasks as well, that are more kind of in the realm of like payroll for them. Not like hugely, but we do have some tasks that we have a couple
like timesheet management, right? Like
time
timesheets and
yeah. So it varies between, but it's quite a few options that they can be used within us as well for HR.
And then expand it even more to be like, okay, here's your culture, so let's create an employee engagement program, an employee recognition program, and those kind of things, and then it just gets really fun. So
yeah, absolutely.
And really, just as you'll find with all the videos that I do, I'm such a big proponent of really understanding what your vision is and what your values are, and then everything you do aligns with that. So when we work with a client, if they don't have a vision and core values, like that's the first thing you need to make sure you have lined out in a very simplified, actionable way. And then like our team, their job is to really get behind that vision too, and then instill that in all of the services that we do. So that is very important to me, because I am a true visionary, and we want to make sure we capture that for our clients too. So we have a storm coming in here, like the trees are shaking. We don't get, not like Texas. If any of you guys are from Texas, I got stuck in a quick tangent. I got stuck in a Texas rainstorm, and like you're calling an Uber, there's like no cars around, and like we have to try to get an Uber, and like there's power lines around us, and there's tons of lightning, and I'm like, we're gonna die before this Uber gets here. And like we were soaked. I felt so bad hopping in their car, because like I've never been so wet from a rainstorm before. So all right, yeah, Emily's in Boise. She says, yeah, it got super dark really fast.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's okay, because like my mom, it's like you can't turn on the air conditioning in April, and I'm at my mom's house right now, and she hasn't turned it on, and I feel like I'm like just, it feels like 100 degrees in this office that I'm in right now. All right. See, the problem I was telling Elena, I'm getting kind of delirious. It's like 2 p.m, and I'm like in Boise, and for some reason I've been using my brain so hard, and I worked late last night doing some things, and so it's on delirium now. I'm on my last bit of brain cells. So okay, let's see what else. Let's talk about. Let's close with around the concept of kind of when people come from a more toxic culture or a micromanaging culture or a non-trusting culture. It's something that it doesn't mean that they're not the right fit, because they themselves align with their why. And so just maybe we talked a little bit about that before we had met. Like, give me some of your insight and thoughts around that, Elena.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's night and day, honestly. I feel like you see so many people, and I've screened so many people and for different roles, and just talking to them and asking about their experience and all that. And the number one thing that I hear a lot about is how it's very isolating and lonely, and they don't feel like they are incorporated in any sort of, like, I don't feel like I feel a part of the company. And I kind of share our vision and who we are, and this is what's important to us. It's important that we have this culture. Like, we want this, and as a company we do. And they almost don't believe me. And I brought on a few people that when they started, they're very quiet, and I'm like, inviting them and say, hey, they're saying hi to you, they're welcoming you, just say hi back. And they start little by little, like, kind of participating more, and then they're just like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. Like, I really do belong to something. And which I think but it's important to have that in a company for sure. And yeah, it's bar none. It's night and day. Like, you can be a part of an office, in an office setting. My own office was in a tiny little corner, and even though I got to see some of my coworkers, it was in a tiny, quiet corner, and nobody would, if I didn't talk to anybody, no one would know I was there. It's just, and even in a virtual setting, and this is our office, in the computer, you can still see somebody, and you can still, you know, and we have a wide open door policy. I don't even think we have a door policy. We have no doors. Like anybody can, you know, reach out and say hi, like, you know, and we're very supportive of each other, and it's a night and day.
Yeah, I kind of joke because there's like this detox state or this rehabilitation period where it's like somebody is great, they're amazing, they're the right fit, we align with our whys, they could tell they're a good, humble, good person, and they seem ambitious, but then when they get into this environment, you're like, well, I thought they would be this way, but now like they're not just jumping in and going as much as I thought, and I would almost be too judgmental out of the gate, because I realized what happens is these people come from these toxic cultures where they're micromanaged, or they're not felt to be empowered, and so I've learned to like relax a little bit on that and like give them about 3 to 6 months. And it doesn't mean that we don't hold them accountable and set the stage, but as far as their ability to create and be innovative, like that is almost like about 3 to 6 months in, we'll see that sometimes. Like some people will hit the ground running, like there are those, but there are some that like you realize that they almost have to go through this rehabilitation themselves and be like, who am I? You know, what do I stand for? Like, and getting their mindset in the right state. And it's beautiful when it happens though, because like I just told my team today, we did a group call with everybody on it. And I said, you know, we are all creative people. Our brains are wired, our inputs and our outputs are far enough apart. Like we are wired to be creative. And so when people say, well, I'm not creative, like they're just creative in their own way. And so it's getting people to understand who they really are and embracing that, and then be willing to take risks. And we would rather have failure and people make mistakes where we know if they know what our vision and our values are, they can feel a little bit more empowered to make decisions. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. And that's when magic happens, when you have everybody on the team feeling creative, even down to physicians that are typically reactionary. So like our service and support team, you know, you're wired to be reactionary to picking up the phone when it calls, but getting them to rewire, like retrain them to be like, no, I am creative. I can start to think a little bit more proactively, can start to come up with ideas of how to better serve our clients instead of just doing exactly what the clients told us to do. Like, let us let us be the experts to help them and show them the way on how they can become better. So I'm obviously really passionate about that. Like, and it was a learning experience for me, because I just realized like I would get a little frustrated. It's like, why aren't people just going? Like I'm not that type of person. I just jump in and you get moving. But then I started to realize the cultures that these people are coming from, and the more people I talk with, I realize just how unique we are, which is sad. Like it shouldn't be that this is the unique way to have the employee experience. And
but we'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it and run with it.
Well, Elena, she's our HR specialist, in our employee experience team, and I've really enjoyed having you on, Elena. I love just having people from my team come on live with me. It's
Thanks for having me.
It's a great way to keep me connected too, because my team is so good at keeping me kind of out of the weeds and being the visionary, and just like we want to do for our clients, you know. And so it's a great way to stay plugged in and also share with all of you guys kind of insight into our culture and what we believe. And if anything, take some nuggets and go implement them in your company. Or if you want a little help and you want a partner in crime, like we love it. We love really becoming an extension of our clients' companies. So any last words of wisdom or thoughts, Elena, before we say goodbye?
I was just bouncing off of what you did. Like we love being the extension, and we love helping out clients. So creating and helping and, you know, being there for them, we love it. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. If you want to learn more about the Centr, you can go to Centr, CENTR.com, and find out about all the services we provide. So, all right, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks, Elena.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.